is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down. Every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to.
Here is where I lay it down. Every burden, every ground. This is my surrender.
This is my surrender. Here is where I lay it down. Every lie and every doubt. This is my surrender. Oh, and I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to.
I grew up in Connecticut. We came here to Delaware for a little while when my youngest sister got sick for AI DuPont. And we kind of were back and forth. We had family here, family in Connecticut. We ended up going back to Connecticut after she got a little better. But the winters were so hard. Like 6 months out of the year, she was in the house, homeschooled. She couldn't leave. My dad had a lung disease too, so it was really hard on both of them. And we had a lot of family things going on, a lot of drama, a lot of tension. And so my parents decided to move us all to Florida. When we moved to Florida, I started middle school, 7th grade. And for every kid that's in middle school, it's like, you're either in it or you're not. Like, you're either part of the crowd or you're not. Like, there's no in between. And I was so unsure of myself. I mean, being in a new place, it kind of comes with the territory. You don't have any friends. You don't know anybody. And I think people could see that I was unsure of myself, so I was an easy target. And I was bullied so badly in 7th grade. Like the cliche, like push into a locker, trip you in the hallway, push your books. But then it got worse. Like I would get like rocks thrown at my head. I would get spit on. And I didn't tell anyone. I wouldn't tell my mom. I wouldn't tell my parents because I didn't want, like it happens in the movies, the parents storm in there and then you come in the next day and it's worse. And so I just kind of like lived with that, and that was like my everyday thing. And that started to become who I was. I lost all my confidence. I didn't like who I was as a person because everything that they said, I believed. I mean, if you get told something enough every single day, you're gonna start to believe it. If enough people say it to you, it becomes who you are. I didn't know it at that time, but I was so deep in depression. And it was like all I could think of. I would just fester on it. Like it would just sit on me, and I just felt so heavy all of the time. I developed an eating disorder. I wouldn't eat, or if I ate dinner with my family, I would throw it up after because I didn't think I was worth it enough to eat a meal. I started to self-harm, which was a very low point for me. And it was, honestly, I think so far that's the lowest that I've ever been. I didn't want to live. Like I thought that I wasn't worthy to take up space on the earth. And I would tell when it finally got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore and it just started to come out of me, I would get into fights with my mom and I would tell her, like, obviously nobody cares about me. Like, no, I'm not worth it. I don't deserve to be on the earth. Your life would be better without me. And so I was pulled out of school and I was homeschooled in 8th grade because it was so bad. And it didn't really follow me through high school. I kind of found like a small group of friends, and I still struggled with it, all of the things that came with it and all the trauma that came with it. But it didn't overtake me as much as it used to. And I tried college after I'd graduated for about a month, and then I slipped back into depression again. I just felt so isolated and alone and hadn't made any friends at that point, and I was just so depressed. And I was thinking those same thoughts that I used to think, and that terrified me. So I called my parents and I was like, I need to come home. Like, I don't feel safe. And they were like, okay, like, whatever you need to do. They drove up that weekend, they helped me pack up my stuff, and I went home. And then a month later, they were like, we're gonna move to Delaware. We think it's time to go back, be with family again. So I think it was definitely a God thing for me to go through that whole experience in Florida and kind of have that. I mean, it's definitely part of my testimony. It's a part of who I am. I don't really share it often or talk about it often because there is that stigma that comes with it when you tell people that you've had like mental health issues, or you've dealt with things like that. I didn't want people to look at me like I was like weak or that I couldn't handle things, or that shaped me as a person, and that's like a crutch for me or whatever. There was all these like stigmas around it, and I didn't want people to know. So when we moved here, it was a little bit of time before we started coming to Eagle's Nest. And I just kind of like tiptoed my way in. I didn't really want to be a part of anything yet. Because growing up in a church, you see a lot of things. Because my grandfather had a church where growing up, and then my parents opened their own church. So it was like church was all I ever knew. Like you were just like I came out like a Christian. It was just the way it was for all of us. It was just how the family was. That was a big part of our family aspect was church. Everything revolved around that. It was a part of who I am, but it wasn't who I am. Like I have a relationship with Christ. I am a Christ follower. I have a relationship with God. It was just like the title of it. And I didn't really sink deep into it until, honestly, I don't think I did until I came here. My dad ended up, he's been into music for forever. And he wanted to play drums again. And so he, at that time it was Mark, who was leading. And so he had a little practice with Mark, tried it out, and I went with him. And he was like, Taylor can sing. And I was like, no, I can't. I can't. And he was like, no, like you should have her. And Mark was like, well, just come sing like one song with us. Just like feel it out. See what you feel. It just comes a full-blown trap. I knew what was going to happen. And so I go up, we sing, we do a song, and he was like, all right, so I'll schedule you for like this Saturday, or like, when are you thinking? And I was in. Without even realizing it, I was in. I was okay with being on the stage because the stage has always been like my safe place to go, and like it's always felt like home for me. Like I started leading worship with my dad when I was 8. So it's all I've known. It's where I feel comfortable on the stage, which is so weird to think about. Like you're on a stage in front of a ton of people like singing, but I always tell people, like when I'm up there, I don't think about it this way. It's this way. Like I'm up there to lead people in worship, but I'm worshiping while I'm doing it. So it was like a time where I could just be with God and just worship, and it was safe and it was comfortable. So Andrew Flack, he was 16, and he was like, come join our band with Justin Chaffinch and Isaac Ewing, who were 16, 17, same ages, and Ben Westbrook. They were all 16, 17. He was like, can you come and help our band out? And I was like, I'm too old. Like, I can't go to youth group anymore. Like, I'm not going to be that old kid that still hangs around youth group and everybody's like, okay, your time's done. You can move on. And he was like, we just need your help like a few times. Like, we just want to get more people to be engaged in it. And I was like, okay. And he sent me a set list, and he was like, all right, let's meet Sunday. We meet at this time. And I wasn't really introduced to the rest of the guys at that point. And I showed up for practice, and they were like, hey, I'm Justin, I'm Isaac, whatever. And we practiced, and it was like we had been playing together for years. Like, it was just so cohesive and together. And if you had walked in on us, you'd be like, oh, they must have known each other forever. And then that just kind of kicked off, and then I never left. I just kept coming back every Sunday, part of the team. Like, still to this day, I have moments where I'm like, how am I doing what I'm doing right now? Like, how do I deserve this? Like, how am I worthy of this? And then I have, like, it's almost like I can hear like a snap like in my head, and I can hear like God's voice being like, but you are. Like, you are enough for me. You're worthy enough for me. I called you to this. And when I don't feel like I deserve anything, God's like, well, of course you do. Like, obviously you do. Like, you wouldn't have gone through that and then I pull you out if you weren't worthy of something, if you weren't worthy of a life to live. If I didn't care about you, if I didn't love you enough to, you rescued me, saved me. It's like I hear it in my head. Like, if I didn't care about you, if no one cares about you, if no one loves you, if everyone's life would be better if you weren't here, then why did I save you? Why did I pull you out of that? Why did I call you to something bigger? Then why? And I can hear that in my head, that I'm not gonna let this life go to waste, because I know that I was called for more, or else I wouldn't have survived what I did, and I wouldn't have made it through.
Say yes, Lord, yes, to your will and to your way. We say yes, Lord, yes, we will trust you and obey. And when your spirit speaks to me, with my whole heart I'll agree, and my answer will be yes, Lord, yes. So shake up the ground of all my tradition, break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground of all my tradition, break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. Shake up the ground of all my tradition, break down the walls of all my religion. Your way is better. Your way is better. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. And I will make room for you to do whatever you want to do whatever you want to. Here is where I lay it down. You are all I'm chasing now. This is my surrender. This is my surrender. Here is where I